Hi there, and welcome to the Essential Series. Today, we've got two of the best in what it takes to be phenomenal in off-plan. We couldn't find better, so we're going to spend some time here with Zhino and Emma today, where we're talking about everything that it takes to be amazing when you actually come into the off-plan space. Now, the Essential Series is designed to do exactly that. It's for people that are just starting out, wanting to learn on how we get to a level of productivity and performance of what you guys have actually got to inside the off-plan environment. We're going to work together on a couple of key areas. We're going to talk about some of the basics. The first one is that we're just going to go and zoom in on a really simple thing. Emma, let's start with you about area knowledge. So how do you actually learn everything about the community that you're going to be selling in, or the area, and particularly some of the types of properties that are being built in that location?
So the best way for area knowledge, when I started in Paul's team, and Paul said, we've got to get out there. So he said, the first thing you need to do is learn Dubai. Yes. Get yourself out, drive around, introduce yourself to all of the developers, go meet the developers, just get yourself familiar with how Dubai works, how the road works. Yes. And just talk to people. Yes. So get out there, meet people, talk to people, and learn different places. You know, the amazing thing I did on the weekend, I stirred up Simon Baker. What I did is I actually went into ChatGPT and I said, and I wrote out, hey, I'm going to be a broker and I'm going to be selling great properties in Dubai in this area. And I chose Arabian Ranches because I think he lives out there. And so I said, now tell me everything. Where do you go for breakfast? Where do you go for lunch? Where do you go for dinner? How long does it take to get to the airport? What's the metro? What's the bus routes? How long does it take to drive to downtown? Tell me about any future developments in the area, things that are going on. Just give me like all the detail. What are the local schools? What are the local universities? Like what would drive price? Like access to a golf course, access to a waterway, you know, like all of those types of things. And I went, and it literally gave me all of the answers because I used the deep research tool. Yeah. And then I then sent it to him. I'm like, hey mate, how's my knowledge on Arabian Ranches? He's like, mate, it's better than mine. And I've lived here for 15 years. Yeah. And I said to him, now it's great that everyone can do that. But now, like what you're saying, I want you to get in the car and I want you to drive and I want you to actually do some of that. So go to the place for breakfast, go to the place for lunch, go to the place for dinner, and actually see what it's like to live there and immerse yourself in that particular location. And to me, I think that like it's such an important thing in off-plan is that you're selling the intangible. So when you're in a position that that's the case, if you're in a newer community where there's not much of it built and it's developing, you really need to be able to say, hey, here's other communities that this particular developer has developed to give you confidence about that particular developer. So whoever that is, it's a really important part. Now, when we go and have a look at that, after area knowledge, the next thing is then market knowledge, right? So market knowledge to me is that what would a 1 better, 2 better, 3 better, 4 better, 5 better lease for? What would a 1 better, 2 better, 3 better, 4 better, 5 better sell for? Now, these are really important foundational conversations because if I'm selling to an investor, they want to know about potential rental return and also to capital growth. So what's traditionally been happening over a period of time, and also to like what's happening to the established market. So if I'm buying something off plan, is that going to impact what the established market's doing? Yeah. So this is a really important foundational piece. How do you actually build that knowledge about your marketplace in learning sale prices and why certain properties might actually demand a higher sale price than other properties in a similar building?
I think I'll take this question on my side, but I think it's a really good question because when I first moved over here, I didn't know how transparent and accessible data is over here about the property market. Yes. Like we utilize something called Property Monitor, which is directly from the Dubai Land Department. And you compare that to different cities, you don't always get that data knowledge accessible to your fingertips. Yes. So there's no lying, there's no cover-ups, anything like that. What does someone buy that for? What did that lease out for? Yeah. What is that selling for now? And I think having that transparency has made it very easy. Yes. When it comes to off-plan, it's very easy to, let's say, speculate. But to refrain from that, we use the market knowledge of today's, then compare it to the buildings that have been there before. Yes. And, you know, the standards and qualities have changed massively, especially pre-COVID to post-COVID now. The developers coming in, the qualities and materials that they're using. Yes. And then comparing it to what something might have handed over last year, might be renting for a little bit more. Yes. And obviously, name is a big thing as well. So the developer who's going in there, you know, that makes a big difference. Yeah. And so we can assume based on the buildings that have been built before, what's that going to be renting out for without speculating too much or, you know, just using real data and knowledge.
And I think the big thing here is that like when you think about what's actually driving a market, the 2040 Dubai Urban Master Plan is a pretty phenomenal document to read because it talks a lot about like actually having a population goal, talking about key infrastructure projects that are going in, what they're doing with industrial and commercial land, the amount of extra private beaches, public beaches, what they're doing with transport, you know, the percentage of people that need to be within 800 meters of a public transport location. Like I've obviously read it a few times, but that foundational idea is a really important important part because, I operate in a different environment. I live in Australia, and one of the key things is that we accidentally let in 500,000 people last year and we don't know where they're going to live. Whereas Dubai is completely the opposite of that, of we're going to build the infrastructure before people actually come. Yeah. So giving people an understanding about, like, literally, if you're thinking about here as being the New York, the Las Vegas, maybe literally of the two biggest populations of India and China, then this is actually going to be a major part of the world. And it's also too that people are buying in Dubai because of safety and security, but also too that literally Dubai has developed an incredible record of actually delivering on projects. And I think that's a really important part that they learned pre the GFC. Yeah. Literally they'd kind of said that a lot of things were going to happen and things were not necessarily occurring, but then post GFC they've had an incredible record of delivery. And so that's a really important component. Once we've got area knowledge, then we're in a position that we've actually started to build market knowledge. The next conversation is transactional knowledge. Now, talk to me a little bit about that, because you're in a position that when you're in a transaction, a buyer who's never bought off plan, what are the things that they need to know to be able to buy into Dubai? And then what specific paperwork might they be involved with as a part of that conversation? Take me through the basics of all basics so I can make sure I know what to do.
So with off plan, so they need to know as much information as possible. So they do need to know facts, figures. Again, we use Property Monitor. We show them. We don't want to feed them false information. We want to be very open, very transparent throughout the whole thing. We want our clients to feel comfortable with us. We want them to trust us. Haus & Haus, one of the most trusted agencies here. So we need our clients to understand that we're there to look after them. My job is to look after clients. I've looked after clients on airlines for 23 years, and I looked after clients in my previous role in the UK. And so here I want to do exactly the same thing. I want to make sure that my clients are happy. If we look after clients, they refer us, they come back to us. So we then go through the whole process with them. We start usually, the lead comes through, or it's somebody that has come to us directly. And we start by feeding them all the information that they need to know. It's good to know an area that they might like. It's always good to have a bit of an idea of a budget. But you'd be amazed at how much budgets can change. They can start by telling you that they only want to invest 1 mil. By the end of it, they've invested 10 mil. It is quite amazing. So budget really isn't too important at this stage, because we just need to know where they want to go with it. Is it for end use? Are they an investor? So all things like that to get everything in place. So once we've got everything in place, we find them the perfect project by, again, doing our research. We've been out there, we've met these developers, we've seen these projects. It's great to be able to take the clients to the projects and to show them themselves, to meet the developers, the sales managers at the projects. If we can't do that, we do deal with a lot of people in other countries. So if we can't do that, we do it by Zoom. We have face-to-face conversations. Always good to get face-to-face. Definitely helps. And then the procedure from there is we then, in the case of some of the big developers, we need to do an EOI, which is an early expression of interest. From there, then they will get, hopefully, get their unit. It's not always the case, and it's not. We have to make clients understand that if it's a big launch, things here are going to sell out, and they're going to sell out very, very quickly. If they don't have that EOI in right at the beginning, they're only going to get a later time slot. We ask them, please make it easier for us. Help us out. Let's get your EOI in early. So we've done the EOI. If it's not one that needs an EOI, we go to reservation. So we start the reservation process with them. Again, making sure we go through everything. We go through the reservation form, and then they put their deposit down. It's a very, very different market here to the UK market that I worked in, where they could put a deposit down. We used to transfer, they'd put a deposit down, and then they paid at the end. Here, as everyone's aware, now we have payment plans. So it works very, very differently. So we would usually ask for 20%, and then the 4% DLD, and then that starts the process. That gets your name on that property, and that property is yours. And then you do your SPA. So that's the start process, and that's how we get to reservation stage. And
then you start thinking about, like, those payment plans happen over a period of time. Could be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, depending on the development. And understanding that up front, that in the brief with the client, why they're buying it, Are they buying to move in? Are they buying to lease it out? Are they buying to ultimately hold for a period of time and then flip it and try to make some money out of it? Because that could actually have an impact as to which properties would actually suit their requirements, and like really making sure that we've got that brief right up front. And I always love that question, have you bought off plan before? And have you bought in to buy off plan before? Because those questions are two different outcomes, aren't they, right? No, I've never bought off plan. Okay. And I've never bought in to buy. Okay. Have you met Emma before? So that's that whole idea of like really making sure that you take people through the process. Now, that's kind of important to get the transactional knowledge right and to make sure that you've got everything right as a part of that. That then moves us into the next one, is then thinking about the brand knowledge. Why do people buy directly through House & House as opposed to buying directly through the developer?
I think, I've known Paul for quite a few years, so it was that easy connection for me to join. But coming in over here and realizing how many agencies there are, and most importantly, knowing how many opened up before, like many years ago, there's big agencies, and then how many opened up just like after this wave that has come in. These agencies, let's just say, taking a chance of this opportunity that's happening over here in Dubai. There's a lot of people purchasing. Being with a good brand like House & House that have gone through, let's call the crashes over here, not just survived it, but also excelled from it.
Sure.
You go to a lot of different agencies, we've got like 3-4 different offices over here, many different departments. And it's kind of like that, we take you from cradle to, not death, but exit.
Let's just say from interest to owning.
Exactly. And even post that as well, right? So looking after your property, most of the work that I personally do with my clients actually normally happens after the SPA. You could probably say the same thing. What happens now? What happens this? What can we do with like getting a mortgage? All of that connection that House & House has built and we have access to. I think for an agent like myself, it's a lot easier to just jump into an agency like this and have that accessibility that quickly. So having that brand House & House really protects not just us, but also the clients as well.
And thinking about the full service line. So once you bought the property, if you need someone to then get it leased for you, if you need us to organise finance for you, now all of that's actually happened. Now you need it to maintain the property, like all of those things. And now you need a sales value, and now you need to sell it.
All under one roof.
And now you want property management, whatever those components are, that all happens in one key place. And I think that whole key thing is that the developer might be just trying to sell you a particular project, where we're actually going to have a look at a number of projects and identify which are the best ones at a commercial entity level that you should be actually considering. And so the reason why we like this particular developer is resaleability. The reason why we like this particular product is because of the amenities. The reason why we like this particular one is because of the payment plans that are actually on offer. And the reason why we like this particular one is because of something else. And so if you're looking at all of those things, you're actually providing appropriate recommendations rather than just trying to sell you into that particular project that we've got on the floor today. Now, what is important outside of that is that how do you develop project knowledge? And I know this sounds funny, but I heard that last year, and this could not be the same, but literally that there was a new project launched in Dubai every 18 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you update that?
Well, very good WhatsApp. So we have so many WhatsApp groups. Your memory in your phone is constantly full, but you have to keep on top of it. So we literally eat, sleep, and we repeat. And all we do is think about what new projects are coming, what's happening. It's all we literally talk about. All of us together, we sit around the table, and our team is amazing. So Paul is fantastic. He literally sits there and we just talk about everything and what's coming, what's our thoughts on this.
We have investor meetings as well. Every Tuesday, Simon comes in and we highlight the top projects right now. Why is it a top project? And I think even before that, if you go even further back, House & House has a lot of due diligence before they allow a developer to come in and be represented by House & House. There's certain projects that we don't work on. And that's the key question that you should ask the agency or agent that you work with is what's the blacklist that you don't work with?
And why is that? So we've found that there's been issues with quality, or there's been issues of non-delivery, or there's been issues that the projects aren't completed, or they were over time, or they were over budget, or different things have happened.
Big part is customer service. People don't want a difficult process, and it's not a difficult process. It shouldn't be. People are giving their hard-earned money for that. It shouldn't be a difficult process. So customer service is a really big thing as well.
So let's talk a little bit about working inquiry. It comes in all sorts of forms, from a phone call through to a WhatsApp, through to an email, through to, I don't know. There's lots of different ways. Someone even walking in the door. If you think a little bit about that, we now use omni-channel approach. And I always think about like the highest level of influence. So face-to-face is normally the first one. Then after that, maybe like a Zoom meeting. Then after that, it probably then falls to maybe a voice note. Then after that, maybe it then falls to like, or phone calls, I should say, and then voice notes. Then maybe an SMS or a WhatsApp message. And then off the back of that, that then goes to an email. And I tend to think that the lower it is in the chain is better for confirmation. And the higher it up is in the chain is where I need to be doing influence. So if I think about that, once I jump off the call, it's a really good thing to then send you a message after, hey, lovely to meet today. Here's the additional documentation as discussed. Here's the link to the 2040 plan. Any questions, let me know. And you're really using good quality templating to make sure that literally the sorts of things that people actually continually ask, that if someone says, no, I've never bought before, okay, great. I'll send you our never bought before pack, which explains what to do if you've never bought before. Does that make, like, I just make it easy that if you keep on getting the same question over and over again, like that should be a template email that you can send someone as a part of that conversation. Tell us a bit about it. How do you actually do that to work inquiry?
I personally wouldn't use a template email because I want to make it sound like it's from me, which is from me. We get an inquiry through. These days, the first thing I do is I will send a WhatsApp to introduce myself first before I make the phone call. Because I know then they can see that it's me. And it's not just a random number that's ringing them.
So you put a face to the name.
Yeah.
Yep, great.
So that would be my
And don't add this number to your block list.
Well, you hope not.
Favourites.
So always give them a call. Always chat to them. Try and find out as much as you can. Introduce yourself. Tell them what you do within the company. And just even then you're striking up a rapport right from day one.
Important to get the time zone right.
Definitely. That is so important. Always
trick
check
for rookies.
That. I think once you've done this job for quite a while, you know the codes. So you know the area codes and you know the time zones. Previous airline experience. I know time zones. I'm good at that. So you would always do that first. So it's something, and then you can build up your rapport. You do your first phone call. You will try and get them into a meeting. Always try and get them into a meeting because you need face to face. You need to understand each other. You need to work out what you want, how you can help them.
And so that's why I like a form, like a briefing form. So look, hey, I just got to ask a couple quick questions. Have you bought off plan before? Have you bought in Dubai off plan before? What's your expectations? How soon before you actually want to be, are you going to be buying the property to purely invest? Is it something you're going to have as a long-term investment and have a tenant in it? Or is it something you're going to flip? Or is it something that you actually see yourself living in? What sort of urgency comes with that? Where you're at in terms of funding? Do you already have your money in Dubai? Do you need a foreign exchange? Like literally, if I just ask, in terms of payment plans, what's your preference? Do you want it try more geared, like it's consistent over time, or more geared towards the end or the beginning? Like what's better for you? Like I reckon if you just get like that out of the ballpark, you're going to know very quickly about how ready is this client and what do I need to do to get them ready. Does that make sense? So it's not that I don't work with you, but if you're newer, well, here is the one-page PDF on what to do if you've never bought off plan before. So in that way, I've got like common questions answered to make it smoother and easier. And I always just think, hey, what do you need to see, feel, or experience to have the confidence to be able to do it today? And if I think about that, it's like literally, is it, that they need to see a completed product? Jump in the car. Let's go and see something that these guys have built in the past so you can see what they do in terms of the quality of their amenities and their development. So you're not just buying something off the plan and having this fear, oh, geez, will they actually do the pool correctly? This is the last pool they built. That makes sense. There's a bit of that conversation, right?
The brochure match what's actually handed over is a key one.
That's kind of an important foundational concept, right? So when you think about that, about understanding that from interested to purchasing, like mapping out the buyer emotions, do buyers ever get buyer remorse when they're buying off plan? Where they wonder, have I done the right thing?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, most people that you speak to, let's just be very frank about it. They're speaking to quite a few people there. Everyone over here is considered an agent. Like my barber's an agent. Taxi driver's an agent. So someone might say, oh, I've just bought this. Oh, no, you shouldn't have bought this. You should have bought
everyone's
this.
An expert.
Exactly. Everyone's an expert. So obviously the people are going to have that conversation. And I think that just goes back to one, are you working with a good agency/agent? Have you as the buyer done that, like qualifying? Do you trust a brand? Do you trust a person that's sharing information? What development have you bought, or from which developer? And those kind of things tick off that box and make us feel safe as a buyer. And then furthermore, like after you've paid that down payment, that like heavier amount, of course you're going to feel a bit like, okay, have I bought the right thing? Have I done, the right decision? Have I made the right decision? And I think, based on the relationship you build with the agent or the agency and everything that we fed before, it's explaining to them that, hey, this was a great launch. It's sold out on launch as well, right? There's a lot of interest in this project, we're going to walk you through for everything from the point of purchase all the way to handover as well.
Yeah. So how important is it to think about that? It's like, when was the last time you spent $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, $100 million?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then have no one call you the next day. And so I just think about that. So like, map out or set the experiences. So just so you know, this is what happens from here. Mm-hmm. So we're going to literally, once all the form signed and the reservation's been paid, and then once it's all been completed and you get all of that, then this is what would actually occur. And so, and I even go one step above that, and I'll ring them the next day and say, hey, I'm not supposed to ring you, but I thought I'd give you a quick call, say everything's awesome. It's all been done. I's have been dotted, T's have been crossed. Our next point of contact would be here. If you have any questions in between time, just send me a quick message, give me a quick call. I'll help you in 2 seconds. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. If there's anything on our side, we'll let you know. And by the way, the updates that tend to come from the developer are X, and so we'll let you know when there's actually project updates on happening. Yeah. And so just be super smart. If they've got it out of the ground, take a photo and send it and say, hey, it's out of the ground. So they're seeing it. And what a lot of people forget is that the buyer who's buying today often knows the next buyer is going to buy tomorrow. And that's referral, right?
They might buy again. So I had a buyer, kept in touch with him, sent him messages, let him know what was going on with his development, and one thing another. And then the next thing, he contacted me again and said, let's do it again. And then he bought again.
So, I had the same situation last week.
Yeah.
I actually did that because I took a photo of the project that he bought exactly last year.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing the windows go up and everything.
Yes.
It's a great project. And then last week he just bought a property for his dad,
Yes.
We just got on the phone together after an hour of chit chat.
Yes.
And he's like, we just click from the beginning.
Yeah.
So going back to rapport building as well.
Which that ability to be able to make someone feel super relaxed, like we've known each other forever. And that's a really important foundational concept. What are some of the common objections that we get in off plan? Fire a couple. What do you got?
Common objections. I think the biggest one I get is probably like
5-10 at me. Let's go. Like, Dubai's in a bubble. Actually, we've had so many properties being built.
The prices are too high right now.
Prices are too high right now. Yeah. Yep, good. What else?
The financial situation at the minute in the world.
Yep, so geopolitical impacts. Yep, good. What else?
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait until X amount of time to see, I guess going back to what's going on. There's a lot of the geopolitical ones is probably the...
But I just think about it, it's like literally is this GFC all over again. Like literally we've gone from 10,000 or 12,000 off-plan sales to 120,000 a year in under 5 years. Yeah. How is that sustainable? How are you planning on delivering that number of properties? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that, how do we even know that this builder or this developer isn't going to go broke? Is the project ever going to get completed?
We get that quite a lot. And we get, what happens? My brother's uncle's sister's friend lost all her money in Dubai.
Yes.
So we get all kinds of
things. And so here's the common thing. Now that you've heard that, when you hear it from a customer, don't be surprised. And so one of the easiest ways to handle an objection is to bring the objection up first. Does that make sense? And so, hey guys, I think that a lot of conversations that people have with me is they go, hey, I'm a little bit concerned. And so if you're picking up that the customer's concerned, and when they say, oh, look, we're a bit worried about X, really normal to be worried about that. But be super relaxed. This is the difference about what Dubai's learnt from GFC versus this time around. So this is the whole conversation. A, payment plans. B, the conversations of how we're doing financing. 3, the quality of the developments. 4, the conversation around actually having a plan of where they want the country in the next 15 years. What's actually happening geopolitically is actually going to drive more buyers to a stable apolitical environment. Does that make sense? And so that's a really, I think, an important foundational conversation is to realise the difference. If you go and have a look at UK or Australian politics or New Zealand politics for that matter, we've got so much indecision. We have no idea about, in Sydney, we've been building a new airport for the last 50 years and we're about to have it launch in the next couple of years, but we don't know if we're going to get a bus or a train to it yet. Whereas so you look at that level of indecision versus you have a look here. Okay, great. This is the new metro upgrade, and that's what's going to be happening. And so even with the floods that happened last year, this is what we're actually now doing in terms of the new drainage system for all of Dubai. You're like, this is insane because you're actually building a completely different world. So I think that whenever an objection comes up, bringing the objection up first is one way to do it. If you get it quite a lot from people all of a sudden, or be in a position give them calmness about that. Hey, it's a really normal thing to be considered, but this is what we found. And at House and House, we only represent developers that we know that complete projects, and we also only look at good quality projects. So let me go and have a quick look at it. Out of all of the properties that we've sold that have actually then been due for completion, completion, this is our percentage rate on what the completion has been. And if it's 99.9% as an example, it goes to show them that on average, there's only one that's had a slight issue with a window, but that'll be sorted shortly. Like, you know, so from that point of view, a little bit of a comedic joke, but it's a really important foundational piece to give people confidence about what's actually going on in the environment. Yeah. If you have a look at that, the power of actually really becoming a client advisor, and I think that's a big difference as opposed to being a salesperson. Mm-hmm. How do you transition from salesperson to client advisor?
Because you want to gain that trust. Sure. I don't want to sell them just anything. Sure. I want to make sure that they're happy with what they buy. Sure. I want to know it's a good investment, so I'm going to research it myself. Yeah. I'm going to look into it. Would I buy it? Yes. I always put myself in that situation and think, okay, yeah, I'd buy that. And I think that's the mentality that you've got to have. Yeah. You've got to think, yes, it's definitely a good investment. Yeah. You've got to check out all the facts. You've got to be happy with it. And then you can then say to the client, look, you know, this is the unit, this is the investment, this is the payment plan. I want to go through everything with you. And I would buy it. So as long as you would buy it yourself and you know it's a good investment, that's how you do it. You're not a salesperson. You're not just pushing anything onto them, because that is not what we want to do. I want referrals. I want people to come back to me, and I want people to be happy. In 10 years' time, I want them to think, oh yeah, I bought that off Emma, and it's, you know, what a fantastic investment I made. And that's what you want. You want your client to be happy.
Here's the brief. Here is the options on what you could choose. I'm going to give you 2 different projects to consider. But these are the 3 reasons why I like this project, and these are the 3 reasons why I like these projects.
Things to add to that is, we always say, like, leave the selling up to the developer agent that we have a connection with or contact with, right? It's not our job to sell. And sometimes you'll hear developer agents say something, and we would know something about that project or about that area, another project coming up in that area, and we'd go back to the client and say, look, this sales agent did say this, but you should also know that this is actually coming up over here, or they won't have accessibility over here. So having that honesty with them. And going to that as well is people just respect honesty. I mean, I always go with here's the pros, here's the cons. You know, like the pros outweigh the cons in this case. Great. The cons outweigh the pros in this case based on what you're looking for. No worries, we look for another one. We're not tied down to any project, any developer.
One of the key conversations is that I'm thinking about the power of a dedicated call session. So like picking up the phone, rings and people. And there's no reason you can't be calling all day because you're calling all different time zones around the world. How important is it to actually have a list of people to call and to get on the phone and to try to create opportunity and to work that inquiry to land transactions?
It is so important.
Yeah.
You need to get yourself in the mind space, and also when you first start, you've got to get as many calls as you can, because you're practicing all the time. You're learning new things. You're learning what to say. The first time you do it, it's so nerve-wracking.
Sure.
But then you just keep going, and then you get to the stage where it just flows, and you can just talk to people because you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about, because it does take a little while to learn to know what you're talking about.
It's like, hi Emma, it's Josh. Haven't had the opportunity to meet us yet. I know you inquired on a property with us at House in Dubai. Reason I wanted to check in today. Did you still have an appetite to purchase? 2 projects that have come up I think could really suit your requirements. Would I be okay to quickly recheck off on your brief, and then I can send you them and see whether or not we could help you to purchase? Yeah, like I mean to say, it's just like simple, straight to the cut, to the chase, get the dialogue right. And I think this is the big difference, like for a lot of people, was about using that omni-channel approach. How do you go with that about WhatsApp and voice notes and then phone calls and SMS and email, and starting to think how you're going to get to people in different ways?
I think first is I always go with asking, because people have a preference. I've got clients that prefer email, and they're always going to prefer email. That's fine. But funny to have voice note point, because I've gone back to the UK in the summers and in the winters, and I'm voice noting all my friends in the UK, and they will never voice note me back. There will always be a text message. But over here is super normal. It's very traditional. Like
and sometimes it's because of the multiple languages too, that it allows people time to process what's being said and then come back with an answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a text block in that sense, but I always ask in that sense. But for example, if I have a phone call with a client, they're happy to meet with me or whatsoever, I'll shoot them over a Zoom link. That'll be through WhatsApp and email as well. After that, I had the Zoom call, drop them a quick text on WhatsApp. And I probably would try one little voice note to see how comfortable they are. If they voice note back, it's always great. It's always nice. But it's more down to preference as well. But it's great to have all that accessibility on the channel.
And also they get to hear your voice. So that means that they get a little understanding of
calming.
You. Exactly. So and I think clients do quite like it.
Dealing with people that are virtual only. Any tips there?
Yes, my first sale was just all done virtually.
Yes.
Same.
Again,
actually.
Yeah, exactly. I would just say, again, keep up the information, just like voice note again, because then they can understand. Zoom calls are fantastic because they can see you. A lot of our clients, as I said, are in other countries, so we've got to do a lot of it virtually. Here, it's a virtual world.
So I start thinking about the calendar invite, the Zoom invite, the reminder, we've now turned up, the post-meeting follow-up. Yeah, like literally, like they're just really good disciplines. And I just think that, like, hey, before you go home for the day, what calls did I have today? Have I followed up with anything? Is there anything that's outstanding that I'm waiting on? And you might be waiting on a floor plan, or you're waiting on something to come back to actually, get an answer to a really important question. But like literally, even if you just go back to the client and say, hey, Jenny, it's a great question. I haven't got a resolve on that yet. As soon as I do, I'll loop back to you. Yep. And then literally then the next morning, I'm hoping to get something by 10 today. I'll let you know, hey, now I've got the resolve that's now happened here.
Just constantly keeping them in the loop.
And I always say that, like, every hour that you leave someone thinking, they think about other things as to reasons why you're not coming back to them. And then they start to create a story.
Yeah.
So don't let that happen. Close the loop. Hey, look, I'll come back to you by lunchtime tomorrow, and I'll let you know where it's at. And if you come back the next morning at 9 o'clock and say, here's the resolve, you've now exceeded the expectations.
Exactly.
If you're getting to midday and it doesn't look like it's coming, communicate early. Guys, just so you know that I haven't been able to get a resolve on the answer. As soon as I do, I'll let you know. I'll come back to you by close of business today just to let you know where I've got to. Hey, I've now got the resolve. This is actually what's happened. Now, I just think that, like, it's like really good communication, but it's a really important part. Knowing what you know now about off-plan in Dubai, what do you wish that you had have known day one that would have allowed you to excel further in your off-plan transactions?
Day one, I wished I would have spent more time listening to people around me, listening to this man on his phone calls, but listening to other people around me.
Yes.
I wished I would have done that a little bit more, because once I started doing that, I thought, oh, right, so that's how you do it. Because I've come from a background where it was all email. You didn't really have to do many phone calls, but I think listening to other people around you, that is fantastic. And just more knowledge. I think I wished I would have got out a little bit more and learned a little bit more right at the beginning, because you do need to know, and you need to get out there and learn everything there is to know about Dubai.
Thoughts?
I mean, great point, because you're in a team or a company that's got, like, collectively nearly 100 years of experience. I mean, not everyone's 100 years old, but collectively as a team, you've got people that have been in the market for like 20 plus years.
You'd be nice to Stephen now.
Love you, Stephen. But that's that point. For me personally, it was getting that developer relationship, because there are certain launches, and you mentioned before, Josh, that there's a launch every 18 hours. Doesn't mean every 18 hours is a good launch coming, but there are certain launches that will sell out on launch day. We just had one last week in the IFC, and that sold out across 3 days. And that was staggered out. But having that developer agent that you got close connection with, getting that pre-information or understanding the floor plans before everyone else, and that's the person that's going to help you get that unit that your client wants. And people, they have the right to be picky with units or picky with projects, etc. Right? They're spending a lot of money. So having that relationship with that developer and that developer agent, and that's your go-to person, and this developer, that developer, I would go back and tackle that a lot more quickly.
The interesting thing is that, like, I always just ask people, hey, what do you reckon it takes to succeed in off-plan? And, someone once said something to me that I thought was very deep, but I obviously wasn't very smart at the time. But they said, architects see things that other people can't see. And I was just like, oh, what do they see? And I was like, oh, buildings. Yeah, that's right. And I just want you to think that literally one of the big conversations in off-plan is just that you're selling a non-tangible that becomes a tangible. And so people are buying into an idea, they're buying into a belief, they're buying into a perception, right? And then off the back of that, if that's actually the case, then actually how do I help them to see that vision more clearly? And so that's where, like, you have a look at how much 3D renders have changed the entire world, and video renders of properties, and then understanding, like, literally in Dubai, like, I was driving around and I was like, Carl Langford has a building, like literally, and literally Amman, the hotel resort, has a building, and like literally Amani has got a building, but is that a good one or not? Or should I just buy an email one? And this is actually about, just because there's a brand attached to it doesn't necessarily mean that the developer who's building that product has got a proven track record. And so it's really important to actually help people to, and I always just think about it, like, off-plan is about the quality of advice, and it comes back down to your pursuit of knowledge. So as we come to the close of today and you think area knowledge, market knowledge, transactional knowledge, brand knowledge, then starting to think about project knowledge, you've got a lot of work to do to build up that repertoire.
Oh yeah.
And then once you've got that in front of clients, on the phone, Zoom. On the phone, Zoom, face to face. On the phone, Zoom, face to face, and like literally, and just do more of that. And I know it sounds funny, but like the building of that body of knowledge is where the heavy work is done, and then it's the consistency of refining that knowledge over the years as markets change, situations change, geopolitical events cause different things, and learning how to work with the surges. And then learning how to work when it stops. So I think a great example is that when the flood happened, the phone stopped for a week. Then all of a sudden it surged again. And so like you've got to learn that like when it stops, don't panic, get back on the phone and ring back previous inquiry and find other people that still have an appetite to buy. Yeah. And it's like, you know, that's the big thing is that literally it takes a long time for people to learn that literally that markets bounce back really hard after markets stop. Yeah. And that was a kind of, I know this sounds funny, but I was involved when the Christchurch earthquakes happened. And I didn't realise that the Christchurch earthquakes would drive property prices in Auckland by 40% the following year. Well, it turns out that when you wipe out all of that supply, those families have to live somewhere. And if they don't want to live in Christchurch, they're going to move to the next major city, and that drove it in Auckland, and prices went crazy. And I didn't understand that. Now I do. And so literally that's a really important foundational piece is that you're going to learn a lot. Guys, it's been awesome to spend some time with you. You make me want to go into off-plan, which is the most important part. Congratulations on all of your success. But thank you so much for spending your time and energy with us today to actually help other people in their career as a part of our Essential series with Haus and Haus.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Cheers, Josh.